Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Crafting for Profit Live, the show where we talk about what it's really like to grow a creative business that supports your life.
So before we get to today's episode, we're going to pause right here because we wanted to share that we're currently running Sublimation Camp this year. This is our 4th year. We are so excited about camp this year. So if you're interested in learning more about sublimation crafting, we're hosting a huge event with 17 teachers, 6 brands, and more than 30 classes all about sublimation and other types of printers for crafts.
You just have to go to sublimationcamp.com and you can grab your free ticket. The camp runs through Sunday, so it's like literally going on right now. You'll need to grab your free ticket today, but you can grab that ticket, get free access to all of our classes. And then if you want access to all of our classes for a year, plus a bunch of cool bonuses and anything, you can grab your all access pass.
All right, so today we are digging into a topic that we think can truly be a game changer for your product-based business, and that is influencer marketing. Now, stop rolling your eyes right now and don't turn this podcast off because you're picturing like some mega celebrity in your mind holding a product on Instagram, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. So stick with us on this one.
We are more talking about these like authentic partnerships with creators, influencers who already talk to the people that you're trying to reach, people who like love your kind of products and are excited to share them.
So our guest today is Erin from Sparrow and Wilde, and she sells romantasy-inspired bookish merch. So like if you haven't heard of her, I would go check her out right now. It's not only beautiful, it's smartly marketed through partnerships with authors and other influencers. And she's taken a creative, fan-focused brand and made it grow through meaningful collaborations.
And Erin has also successfully navigated author licensing, meaning that she works directly with authors to legally sell products, featuring their books and other things like that. It's a really cool model, and we're excited to dig into how that works.
And finally, just before we get started, this episode is pre-recorded, but if you're watching with us on YouTube, we are in the live premiere in the chat, and so you can ask any questions there that you have as the podcast airs. If you're listening on the podcast or the YouTube replay, feel free to ask any questions in the comment section below the YouTube video or in the podcast notes. We do have a form for any questions that you have.
All right. Are you ready, Erin? Are you ready for our questions?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's kick things off with sort of your business itself. Tell us about Sparrow and Wilde, what you sell, how your brand has grown into this sort of romantasy shop. Just give us all the details.
Yes, and thank you for having me on to start. I am so happy to be here. Huge fans of you both. And so I started Sparrow and Wilde actually in June of 2022 as a side hustle. And at that point, I wasn't doing anything in the book world at all. I just saw a video about this business model called print on demand, which is a very low risk, low inventory, low cost way to start a side hustle. And I wanted a creative outlet because my 9-to-5 is a CPA or was a CPA. And I just needed something to get my creative juices flowing because all I do is look at spreadsheets all day. So I started this print-on-demand shop, and I really dove into kind of the mental health niche at that point. And at the same time, while I was getting this business going and kind of doing my designs, I was reading a series called A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. And in the back of my mind, I was like, I wonder if I can design based on these books in a, an ethical way so that I'm doing it correctly, and then the author maybe could get a portion of it. So immediately went into a rabbit hole of figuring out if this was possible and found out that it is possible to license with authors. So I had reached out to Sarah J. Maas to see if she would contract with me, and she was my first author. So that kind of really narrowed me down into this book world. And I got extremely obsessed with all things romantasy and got to kind of live that magic again that I think a lot of readers are starting to enjoy in this, part of life, your 30s, your late 20s. And it just kind of exploded from there. I started selling apparel for these authors. So I would sell t-shirts, sweatshirts, and then it kind of took on a life of its own. And I expanded my product line to temporary tattoos because a lot of the characters in these fantasy books have tattoos. And so expanded to that, and then expanded even more to stickers and desk mats, kind of office accessories as well. And then, like you said, started working with partners and influencers because I wanted to get my products out there, and I also wanted to help them because as you develop these relationships on Instagram or on social media, you start to get to know people and you want to help their business and learn from them as well as uplift your own. And so that's kind of the idea of what started this whole partnering with people. I started all on Etsy. So it was a lot of bookish merch on Etsy. I've since created a website and I do events, wholesale. I offer a course now and collaborations. So it really has taken on a life of its own and actually let me quit my 9-to-5 job as a CPA. So now I fully am focused on Sparrow and Wilde, which I'm grateful for because having the two was a lot. And it's so nice to be able to just focus on one and kind of give it all my energy.
I love what you had to say about like partnering with people to like make their dreams come true along with making your dreams come true. So I've been doing some wholesaling and it was like really made me nervous to kind of reach out to these small bookish shops. And then I realized like you just twist this a little bit and I'm the bookish shop, right? Like these are my people. These are people that are just like me. I mean, like in another life, slightly parallel to mine, I could be running my own cute little romance bookshop. Like that's totally up my alley. So I think like looking at it from a direction of like, these are not like scary people to reach out to. They're literally just other yous. They're other people doing, trying to make their small business dreams come true. And I feel like that's just a better way to look at it than being like, oh my gosh, I have to reach out to influencers or whatever.
Exactly. And you actually get more used to it as time goes on. I remember first, it is kind of a strange dynamic because I love these authors and these influencers, these podcasters, and I'm a fan. So reaching out to them does feel a little bit strange because you don't want to, to have them say no or to think you're weird. But once you start doing it more and more, it becomes second nature and you realize that they are just people and they're businesses. And most of them are entrepreneurs just like us. And so they realize the power of this community and they want to help you and have this mutually beneficial relationship. So once you realize that, kind of everything unlocks for you.
So you're talking about being nervous about reaching out to people. And as soon as you started talking about Sarah J. Maas, I was like, okay, I would be so nervous with these big authors. So I know you work with a lot of authors directly. What does that process look like? And do you ever get nervous reaching out to some, like, I'm a huge fangirl of these people. Do you get nervous?
I did at first, definitely, especially when I wasn't quite sure what the licensing process looks like. And to give you some background, licensing in this space, in the bookish space or in the podcaster influencer space, is when an owner of intellectual property gives you permission to create something and sell it based on their work. So typically in the form of a contract, they will send you a contract that outlines, their rules and regulations, what their royalty percentage is, because for most authors, that you will pay them a portion of your net profit back for each sale that you make. So it really is this mutually beneficial relationship where they're getting a portion of your sales, you're getting to design based on these works that they love and building this business, and they're getting marketing with more, small business creators marketing their products for them. So typically when you reach out, the first step is just to figure out if this author or influencer, whoever it may be, offers licensing. For authors specifically, that information is typically available on their website. So it's in their FAQs, or maybe they have a merch specific page. You can go there and learn who to reach out to figure out if they will allow it. So once you figure that out, I typically will just email them. I would say, especially at first, it's a lot of just emailing. And some people may not reply. Some people may reply and let you know that licensing isn't possible. It could be due to a movie deal, Netflix or Amazon Prime, something like that. But a lot of the time they will get back to you and they're very excited and will let you know the terms. So the percentage, everything. And if everything sounds good to you both, they'll send over a contract. You'll sign, they'll countersign, and then it's kind of off to the races with designing. Authors typically do want to review the designs that you make before you launch them, just to make sure that it aligns with their vision. And once you kind of have this relationship with them, it becomes really like a well-oiled machine. You're designing, they're approving, you're marketing, you're selling, you're building this customer base, all based on these books that have such a huge fandom and such a huge community that it becomes like a snowball, and you get more authors and you're learning more about the process and helping other creators grow. And it has changed my life. And I am just so grateful that I found this very, very niche space that's growing like crazy. So it was nice to kind of get in at the beginning of it.
This probably also applies to other industries. I'm trying to think of like other industries outside the bookish industry that this might apply. But if you're thinking about like, hey, I want to make designs for this particular company or this particular actor, or this particular, whatever it might be, there are definitely ways to also reach out to those people. It should be similar, but yeah.
Definitely. So there are so many besides just books that people don't realize you can create merch for. Indie video games is a huge one. So before these video games get picked up by the larger companies, they kind of like books, they create these huge fandoms and people want to wear something that shows their love for it. So video games, also sororities have the ability to license, podcasts, influencers, Twitch streamers. There's so many. I mean, the list is endless. And people usually want to partner with you because they don't know, their expertise is not in merch development or merch creation. And so you bring this thing to the table where they can market their products and get, their slogan, if they're an influencer, or their brand out into the world and onto their website. And then you're kind of handling the back end and the customer service, the returns, all of that, those things that they don't necessarily have time for.
So you've also expanded into collaborations with influencers and like other small businesses. So how does that compare to sort of doing the licensing thing, and what made you decide to branch out?
Branching out into the influencer, the creator, the small business world really just kind of happened on its own, actually. Because the bookish world is so small, I started to develop relationships with people through social media, through the events that I was going to. And having an entrepreneurial mindset, which I'm sure you both are aware of as well, you're always kind of thinking about, okay, how can we make this grow? What can we do next? And so talking to other people that with that same mindset who have made podcasts or made websites, when you get together, the possibilities are endless. You kind of you have to almost limit it. The sky is the limit, but we all have only 24 hours in a day. So it started to really happen that way, where when we would get together, it would be, hey, I think we could make merch. What do you think? Or, I think we could do these designs. Or for example, one of the collaborations I did was with Whimsy Gossip podcast, and they make fan films for fantasy books. And one of the fan films that they were making was based on the book A Court of Thorns and Roses. And I had met them at one of the events I did, I think the summer before. And I was selling tattoos at that event. So they reached out to me and was wondering if I would create a specific arm tattoo based on the character in the book that they could use in their fan film. And so that exploded. So I designed it for them. We worked with them, shipped it to them for their fan film. And that actually has become my #1 selling tattoo in my Etsy shop. All because, we got together with these people who are creating things for this universe we love, and we used both of our strengths to create a product that customers are going to love. And so it's just building on these relationships that come about. And yes, sometimes they are sought out, but for the most part, most of my collaborations have just come up based on the community that I'm a part of and that I'm immersed in every day. And for example, one of the Colorado small businesses that I work with is called Neon Blonde, and they are a hair salon, but it's actually a hair salon of Lexi and Nicole from Fantasy Fangirls podcast. So they have kind of a brand with their hair where they both have a different color hair. And I was connected to the owner of that salon through them. So it's really just this small world of these bookish communities and then kind of sub-adjacent businesses as well.
I was actually going to mention that Nicole was our first ever podcast guest.
I saw that and I texted her about it. She has been such a huge part of my journey, just kind of on a tangent. She is my entrepreneurial role model.
Yeah, she was our same. She was our business coach, both for crafting camps and individually.
Okay. And she has been so helpful.
Before she moved to Fantasy Fangirls. And so, yeah, it's huge inspiration. And then also, if you guys are interested in your mindset for running a small business, she's so good at mindset stuff. So go listen to the first episode we did with Nicole. And then if you are interested in all of these romantasy kind of books, listen to their podcast, Fantasy Fangirls, which is not safe around kids or work, but it's very, very good.
So I'm interested, when you work with authors, I presume that they bring the contract to the table. When you're working with influencers or smaller brands, are you have a contract that you provide, or are you expecting them to provide it?
So I typically provide the contract. If they have something, if they've worked with merch services before, they may have a contract, and I'm definitely happy to utilize that. But for the most part, this isn't their area of expertise, so they likely don't have one. So I have a template, and we work through it, because every arrangement is going to be different. Every payment structure is going to be different. But I will bring it just because it's just part of my day-to-day business, whereas it might not be so much theirs.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I would not know where to start with that. So that's what I was wondering. All right. So speaking of partnering with creators and influencers, how do you find the right people? So the right fit for your brand. Are there any red flags, green flags maybe that you look at when you're searching for someone to partner with?
That's a good question. I would say the relationships definitely happen naturally within the community. So Fantasy Fangirls, I actually had met them at an event a year previous and had been chatting with them on social media a little bit, but had this idea. And they were actually one of my first partnerships. So again, was very nervous reaching out to them, but I did a few mock-up designs just to show them what I was envisioning. And I just sent them to Nicole and Lexi via email and said, hey, here's my idea, kind of take it or leave it. I didn't want to come off too strong. But they really just kind of happened naturally. And once I worked with them and figured out the ins and outs of working with other people, because until then, my business was just me, making the designs, doing Etsy, all of those things. So Nicole and Lexi were really the first external business that I worked with. And once you figure out the contracts and everything like that, it's almost like rinse and repeat. You can start approaching other people with a little bit more confidence. And so I just started reaching out to people. And as far as the red flags, I don't know that there would be any huge red flags. You do start to get to know the creators who you'd want to reach out to via Instagram, watching their content. I would say maybe the only thing that I look for as far as like a disqualifier is just if anyone's disrespecting other people's work or other people's art, other people's IP, I typically stay away from that because ethics and working with these authors and getting permission to use their work is such a huge part of my business, both for the merch side and for the course side as well. I'm teaching people how to do this legally. And so if I'm working with someone who maybe isn't, I wouldn't want that to come off in a negative way if authors were to look at my profile. As far as green flags, I think just people who are uplifting in the community. I mean, we are all in this together. I built my shop with this community. I could not have done it without it. I say it so many times and mean it every single time. We're not on an island. We're not doing this alone. And so people who really want to mentor and help and are happy to answer questions and build up other creators, those are the people that I'm drawn towards because I had so many of those people help me get to where I am. So I kind of want to give that back and work with people who have that uplifting attitude.
I think one of the things that for me, that I would look for is a person who is authentically sharing paid promotions or, partnerships, that kind of thing, where it's not just like, hey, look, somebody sent me a thing, thanks, and it doesn't feel like they're just doing it for a paycheck or for free stuff or whatever it might be. I feel like there really should be that authentic relationship, between the two brands or companies that are working together, because it can really come off like icky if you can just think that somebody's doing it just for the money or the free stuff.
Exactly. And those are easy to spot. And you can tell when someone's really passionate, especially in my niche with books. You can tell because we all are in this crazy obsession of these romantasy and these fantasy books. And so you can really tell when somebody has that passion behind them versus they're just trying to do this for a buck or, for an overnight success kind of thing. But even with Colorado businesses that I've worked with, just meeting them in person before and seeing that attitude of they see the mutual benefit that we'll both get from this arrangement versus, I don't necessarily want someone who's just thinking of themselves and just out for that. We really want to kind of uplift each other and we both bring something to the table. And so people realizing that has also been a really, really good thing to look for when I'm searching out these partnerships.
All right, so today's episode is brought to you by Kittle. And today we want to talk about if you're a designer and you're looking to design with someone and sort of collaborate in real time, even with clients and non-designers, Kittle has a solution for you. So with Kittle, you can share, edit, and present all in one platform. It's great for designers that want to send drafts to clients and have them give you feedback. Then you could resend the draft, that type of thing. And they can literally just get on there and sort of type their notes right into the platform.
This is so helpful if you are working with clients because, just emailing back and forth and emails get lost. Or if you email like 2 emails in a row, why does nobody ever see the first email that you sent? This is just a great way to be able to collaborate within the design platform. So if you are interested, we of course love Kittle. We would like you to sign up at link.craftingcamps.com/Kittle. That's KITTL. And you can use the code CFP, Crafting for Profit, CFP, for 25% off all of their plans for new users, which is a huge discount.
So jump in, give it a try. It's called Kittle Teams, and you can start collaborating with your clients in real time.
All right, back to our episode. So let's talk strategy. So if you want to send maybe a product or if you want to partner with somebody for a collaboration, what are you hoping for in return? Do you aim for sales, visibility, engagement, all of the above? What are you looking for?
Definitely all of the above. All of those definitely come with time. I think at first, especially when you're pitching it, immediate sales is the goal for both parties, right? We all want to kind of grow and have that revenue in our pockets for sales. But in the longer term, these partnerships are so much more than just the sales. I mean, just with Fantasy Fangirls alone, the partnership that I've had with them has turned from just selling merch into so much more. So I started out with them with selling, designing merch for them and selling it. And now they actually have transferred me over to their team and I am their official merch coordinator. So it went from kind of this side thing to now it is a huge part of my business where I am doing collections for them once a quarter and taking merch suggestions from their Discord and just so many things that I would have never expected when I first reached out to them. So I think, yes, sales is the goal, but it's really just business growth, both for these other businesses that you work with and for yourself, because if you have this mutually beneficial partnership, why not continue to grow it? If you both have the capacity and if you're taking something off of their plate that you are more of an expert in and you have these processes in place, why not take it to the next level? So yes, sales, visibility, I would say engagement for sure. Social media has changed my business for the better. I can't imagine doing this without social media. And the engagement that I've gotten from these sorts of partnerships has been huge because you're not only giving these people access to your audience, but you're getting access to their audience as well. So you're cross-promoting without, like you said, without being salesy because you have this product that both sets of people will love. And so you're really leaning on each other in this space. And it doesn't have to just be books. I mean, it can be anything. For these Colorado small businesses, most people who follow Fantasy Fangirls are also following their hair salon. And so it really just comes into these communities that we're building. And even outside of that, I've worked with local bookstores and just having the visibility on Instagram and more of a reputation that, I've done this before. And I've worked with these other people kind of gives them the confidence to trust you with their business, which is always hard. Especially as small business owners, I'm sure we all know, trusting someone and bringing someone into your business is hard. And it's one of the hardest things that I have done because my business was just me for so long and I kind of had like a chokehold on it. But letting other people into it has exponentially grown it. I cannot recommend it enough to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, even if it's hard, which I am an introvert. I am very type A. So getting out of my comfort zone is not where I like to be. But you have to for this kind of business. And it has grown my business to let me quit my 9-to-5. And I'm just so grateful that I reached out to that first, influencer to pitch this because now it's a huge part of my business.
So I was also thinking that, Fantasy Fangirls is one example and their following is large. However, their following is also very passionate. So even if their following was smaller, the passion that the followers have is going to also increase all of these things: sales, visibility, engagement for your accounts as well, just because of the passion of the following. So I was just going to note that just in case people are looking for influencers and thinking, well, maybe this person's too small. Is this following enough for me to approach this person? But if the followers are passionate, it might be a win-win for both of you.
I would definitely agree. there's so many like micro communities online that have this passion, and they want to, whether it be a shirt or, if you're hand making things, people love showing off these hobbies or these niches that they have. And the possibilities are endless for marketing yourself to these people. So yes, even if they have a small following, like you said, the passion will be there and you can grow together. I started, when I first reached out to Sarah J. Maas, I don't even think I had 1,000 followers. So you're growing together and you're bouncing off of each other. And once you get so many of these people on your team or in your corner and you're in their corner as well, your community starts to grow. And it's this crazy, I can't even explain it because it's been such a whirlwind of just growth. And it starts off kind of linear and then it just exponential because you're leaning on so many more creators and, creating these communities. It's just been irreplaceable to my business.
Yeah. Rising tide lifts all ships. I think we say that in every other episode.
We say that a lot because we feel like there's so many people out there who feel like it's one big competition. And it really isn't. It really isn't. It's collaboration. I mean, obviously, Angie and I collaborate on every other thing we do. And we never could have gotten to where we are without having partnered together. So I feel like finding those people, making those connections, it really can increase your business and, make your business so much better.
Definitely. And one of my favorite quotes is, competition happens at the bottom. The people at the top are collaborating. And I have completely wired my business based off of that because there's, especially in this creative space, there's room for everyone. I mean, I created a course where I'm teaching people to do exactly what I did. And a lot of the feedback I get on that is, well, aren't you just training your competition? It's like, no, everyone has such a different design style, such different niches, different sub-communities. There is room for everyone. And getting to know these other creators gives you so much more. It's like pay it forward. I had so much help when I first started my shop. I want to do that for other creators and watch us all grow together. Because also, it's not fun to do this by yourself. It's not fun to do this on an island. I mean, I have my husband, but when I'm talking about these fantasy books and he hasn't read it, it's not as fun to bounce ideas off of other artists and creators, and they see that passion in their eyes, and we're doing this together.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the reasons we started this podcast was to, encourage other people to start a handmade business, maybe do the same things we're doing. Like there's room for everyone here.
I feel like everybody has their own style, their own method of teaching, their own things they make, like all these different things. Like no two people are alike and people are going to connect with different people for different reasons. And yeah, it really doesn't pay to just to think of everybody as your enemy.
Exactly. I wouldn't have been able to quit my 9-to-5 if I would have done that because so much of what I've done has been through community. And I tell everyone who wants to start a business, I say, lean on your community regardless. And if you don't have a community yet, there is a community for you. The internet makes it so easy for us to find these sub niches and these passionate people who have either been through what we're going through or are going through it right now. And both of those outlooks are so important to keeping your mindset up. It can make or break your business, your mindset, especially when you're in that first stage of your business where you're learning and you feel kind of like you don't know what you're doing. That's where a lot of people stop. And surrounding yourselves with other creators and other people who are in it with you will help you not stop. And you have to get through that first phase. And once you do, all of these doors open up because so many people don't get through that first phase. So once you get there, it's immediately, you have so many more opportunities because you've stuck with it. And that is one huge thing I've learned through all this is that first part is the hardest. And once you get through that, the sky's the limit.
We do have an upcoming episode about how to create community. So this is not necessarily a business podcast that we're going to do here in a couple of weeks. But we get this question all the time is like, how do I find my people? So we do have an upcoming episode for all of you about how to find your people because we think it's really important.
Yeah, I was going to say that's so funny you said that. Plug for next episode. I think it's coming up soon, very soon.
Yeah, it might be the episode after this one. We'll have to see.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about maybe the bad a little bit. So have you ever had a partnership that didn't go the way you hoped? Did it teach you anything about setting expectations, choosing collaborators?
So I have never had a partnership go badly. I think mostly because people in this community that I'm in are so positive that it's been really great. I would say one of the negatives through all this, or maybe more of a learning experience than a negative, is when I first had this idea and started reaching out to people and creators and influencers to do this, I was reaching out to a ton of people. My dad always used to say, you have to collect no's before you get your yes. So it was when I was a little bit less known, I was reaching out, blind sending emails, and I was either getting a no or getting a no response, which is completely normal and part of the process. But once I started to get a little bit more experience, get more well-known in this bookish community, I started to get yeses. And it was too many yeses for the amount of time that I had. But at that point, I was really hungry for it. And I wanted to help these people and do this part of my business that I said yes to all of them back. I accepted the partnership, and I maybe spread myself a little bit too thin for a few months there, especially when I was working my 9 to 5 as well. So I would say that's the main thing I've learned, is that you need to be able to give these partnerships the attention they deserve. And I definitely did, but it was at the cost of a lot of my mental health and sleep schedule. So I would say just, you're going to have to reach out to a lot of people if you go this route, and you get used to it and it becomes second nature. But even if somebody responds and says that they want to do it, if you don't have the capacity for it, people are going to appreciate it more if you politely let them know, oh, I actually don't have the capacity for this right now, as I did when I reached out, but I will let you know when that changes, versus just spreading yourself really thin. And that has applied to most of my business. I am famous for spreading myself too thin because this business that I have is so fun. And I get to read books and wear crowns and design things for fun. And I want to do too much of it. So lately, especially since I've gone full time, I've had to relearn how to set those boundaries with myself and have a work-life balance and exercise and eat healthy meals. So that's one thing that I've learned, and I'm still learning. I'm not very good at it yet, but I'm getting there, is it's okay to say no to people, even if it means turning away a little bit of revenue in your business, because you need to be able to give the things you are working on the attention they deserve. And those other opportunities aren't just going to go away. People are very understanding, especially entrepreneurs. They realize that time is fleeting, and we need to plan everything out and not overcommit. So don't feel this pressure to say yes to everything is the main thing I've learned throughout all of this. And one example of that is I don't think I've talked about this yet, actually, but I did a partnership with indie authors. So it was last year, I did an indie author collab kind of application where indie authors, which for anyone who doesn't know, is an independent author who hasn't been picked up yet by a traditional publisher. So I love working with indie authors because, again, it's mutually beneficial. I get to reach their following, they get to reach mine, and we're helping this community of authors that haven't yet been picked up. So I had this application process where they would apply, and then I would create a custom temporary tattoo for their book that they would then include in their PR boxes. And I would design a social media post, and we would collab on it, and we would do a reel together. And that was so much fun. And I did it with, I think, 6 or 7 authors before I realized that I didn't have time for it. And I needed to kind of take a step back. And that's okay. And people understood, so now it's kind of a rolling thing where once a year I'll open up the applications. But opening it up to everyone all the time just took more time than I had for it. So I really just wanted to be able to give them the respect and the attention that those designs deserved. So pulling back actually ended up helping more. And getting that through my mind took a while, but I have learned it, and I'm so glad I did.
One of the other things you have me thinking about too a little bit is hiring, because we actually have this on an episode recently about hiring, because overwhelming yourself and killing yourself is just not possible. And there's so much that we have to do, right? It's very difficult for us to do everything, but there is a lot on our plates. I can't send some random person out to show up on an Instagram reel for me. They're going to know it's not me. So there's, things that I have to show up for. I want to do my designs. I don't necessarily at this point, at least, want to hand those over to somebody else. So if you can maybe offload, when you get to that point, offload some of the stuff that isn't, forward facing. That's a great way to be able to have more capacity to do all the fun stuff.
Exactly. And I've learned that lesson recently. I actually, like I said, when I first started, I had like this chokehold on my business. And you really can't grow the way that I wanted to grow, at least without outsourcing things or hiring out things. So I recently actually outsourced my accounting, which is very strange for me because I am a CPA. And so it went against my soul, but I did it because, like you said, that's something that anyone can do. But the designs, the social media, the coaching calls, like those are things that I have to do. And so finding these little things that you can outsource is so helpful. And I've been looking for other things and brainstorming other ways to outsource as well, because especially once you're full time, I know when I was at my 9 to 5, I kind of romanticized being full time. And I said, oh, I'm going to have all this time. I'm going to get everything done. And somehow I'm working more. I don't know what happened, but you have to get it through your mind that if you want to grow, and some people just might want to keep their business themselves, and that is completely fine as well. But with the growth that I want in my company to have, I have to outsource or hire some things. So I'm trying to brainstorm other things as well, but I'm glad you all brought that up because that's been something I've been, I don't want to say struggling with, but just working through. As an entrepreneur, it's been difficult to let go, which I think a lot of creative entrepreneurs deal with as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think everything you mentioned are things we hear repeatedly. So the overwhelm, the like stressing yourself out and spreading yourself too thin, the like chokehold of things and not wanting to let it go. And I feel like it's just every single person. It's just human nature, right? Like you want to build this amazing business and then you're like, but only I can do that. And bless you for doing your own accounting for so long.
That was one of the first things I outsourced. I was like, this has to go to somebody else. So now I've got a person.
I'm so glad I did. I was like, why am because I have this creative business. I'm like, I don't need to be spending all my days in a spreadsheet. That's what I used to do. I don't do that anymore.
When you sit down at your desk and you're like, oh, I have to do my accounting, or oh, I have to run payroll, or whatever it is, like you'll get to the point where you just sit down and you're like, oh, I cannot do this another day. And that's when you're like, okay, I got to get somebody in here. Maybe it's like, I cannot believe I have to ship all of these products. I had, of all things, a friend shared a mug that I had made for my little Etsy shop. She shared it on Blue Sky and it went like tiny viral. Like it had like 2,000 likes. I mean, it wasn't even huge, but it was enough that I ended up with like 30 mug orders for Monday morning. And that's just, I mean, I can make 30 mugs, but I did not expect to make 30 mugs that morning. And as I was boxing everything up, I was like, oh, I could see myself hiring somebody for shipping at some point, because the making of the mugs, fine. That was fine. But it was like the taping and the adding the things and the wrapping. And I was like, I don't love this part.
That's the beauty of print on demand, though.
That is the beauty of print on demand.
That is. I was going to say, I actually had a pottery. I used to sell pottery on Etsy before I started print on demand. And I think it was the shipping that made me stop.
Yeah.
Because it's so, I would get an order and instead of being excited, I'd be, oh, I got to ship this. And then some of them would break, and there's all of that. But I do a few handmade things now. I do bracelets, for like friendship bracelets. I just started selling like officially licensed. And then I ship tattoos and stickers from my house. But that's why I'm so glad for print on demand, because I do have to pack orders. I pack orders most mornings, but that's only for the stuff I sell from home. Print on demand, they're doing everything else. And it has been such a godsend because there's no ceiling on it. If I have a good, like you said, a good video, a good Instagram or something, and I get 50 orders, I'm doing the exact same thing as if I was not getting 50 orders, because my print provider is doing all of that for us. So that has been a game changer too.
We need to do an episode on that. And I need to get my button gear. It's literally on my list. Look into print on demand, but I can't because I'm making 30 mugs.
I've been there. But I think it's good to have a combination too. Some handmade things to keep that creative spark alive and keep that, doing things with your hands. You can't replace it with a mouse. There's something about just focusing on art made with your hands. And I always have to keep a bit of that in my business because I just love it. And it helps with the mental stuff that we talked about with entrepreneurship, kind of calming the brain, not going a million miles per minute every minute of the day. If you have something to focus on, it helps draw you out.
And it means you're not sitting at your computer all day, right? It means you're not just staring at a screen all day. Before we hopped on this call, I was making tote bags and I was having a lovely time listening to an audiobook, and I was up and moving around and moving my body. And if I do these print on demand, which I probably could, and maybe I will in the future, I would lose that piece of the creation of it and the moving around and the, and then I would just be staring at a screen some more. So I think that there is definitely a balance. Like, I think I will have to always keep something, tactile in my business.
Definitely. Me too. That's where we all started, right? We got to keep some of that.
Exactly. All right. So you operate in a very passionate, very niche space, bookish romantasy fans, of which both Angie and I belong to this fan group. So we can personally attest to this fan group being very rabid. So what advice would you give to someone who wants to start a creative business in fandom or merch, but doesn't know where to begin?
That is a great question. I would say get to know the niche and the customer first of all. And a lot of people think you have to be in the fandom to start a business for the fandom. You don't. You can get to know them. There's social media, there's Facebook groups, everything to get to know them. And once you have that background of what they find funny, what they're connecting with, what characters they love and are emotional about, that's when you can see if there's any options for licensing that you'd want to do. Whether it be if you're in the bookish world, if you want to reach out to an author, and it doesn't have to be a huge author. These indie authors, they want merch too. So you could reach out to them to see if licensing is an option. And typically those emails are very casual. I will just give a little bit of background on who I am, what I make or what I want to make if I was a new shop, and ask if they have options for licensing merchandise. And they'll typically get back to me within, a week or two to let me know. But I think just taking that one step of seeing if the IP owners or the intellectual property owners within your niche or within your fandom offer licensing. Because once you get an answer back, even if you're not doing it right away, having that knowledge and that kind of light of your goal will help you start the business or take the steps that you need to get this business going, because you're not just starting and saying, I have no idea where I'm going. Once you have a path in mind of, okay, I want to start this business because I want to license with this author or this video game designer or this sorority, whatever it may be, that gives you a tangible goal. And then you can start getting to know the customer more, investing, creating a list of ideas. But doing those tangible things at first makes the big things seem less big because you've taken a step, you know that there's an option for it. And then when you're ready, you can go back to them with designs or with ideas for a product line.
All right. So for those that are listening that want to get into influencer marketing or collaborations with influencers, what's one small first step they could take, this week even, to move in that direction?
I would say if you have an influencer who you want to work with and you have a product ready, reach out to them. Because you have to get used to this idea of reaching out to people that you don't know, but that you follow. And once you start doing that more and more, it gets easier. But for example, I do this with my temporary tattoos a lot, where in the book community, a lot of cosplayers or people who dress up as these characters, they have a very large following. And it would be beneficial to me for them to wear my tattoos in their posts, their reels, at their events, whatever it may be. So I'll just reach out to them. Even if I've never DM'd them or never done anything with them before, I'll reach out and explain all of this very kindly and very openly. Because again, people are going to tell if you're just being salesy. They want that authenticity. So just reach out and let them know who you are, and then offer to send them, I will offer to send them a temporary tattoo set. I'll just say, if you could feature this in one of your posts, that would be great. I typically don't include anything very formal because that can just come off a little bit rigid. And within at least my community, things flow a little bit better. We're all trusting of each other, and it's kind of that honor code system. So I will just send them the tattoos. And then when they post it, they typically do a collaborative post with me where they invite me on Instagram to be on the post with them. And then it shows up on my page and their page. So that is a really small step, even if you don't get a reply back, just reaching out to someone to get used to the process of it. And I would say 9 times out of 10, the people do reply. Even if they say, oh, I don't have any capacity for it at that time, great. you still have done it. You still have taken the step for your business and for yourself to get yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. And that has been very, very useful for me because these cosplayers are then getting my products and enjoying them, and then they want to use them more. So it's also kind of a way to get a new customer base in and get to their audience, as well as getting feedback on your products. And then if they have, kind of like with the podcast fan film that I did, if they have ideas in the future, they will let me know. And I've had several people reach out for that same podcast did another fan film where the males had tattoos and they were kind of swirling on the arms. So Whimsy Gossip reached out to me and asked if I could design custom male tattoos for the male characters in the books. And so I did that and sent them the tattoos. So it creates this, I don't want to say lifelong relationship, but for the life of your business, you're building these relationships so that when they say, oh, I need this handmade item, I need these, vinyl decals or whatever it is that you're making, they're going to think of you because you have put yourself out there and you've stepped out of your comfort zone and gotten your name out there. And it happens little by little and you don't even realize that it's happening. But when you're reaching out to these people, you're getting your name out there and you're building this trust with people in the community in a genuine way.
I get these emails regularly for craft supplies, or an example lately was like pegboard accessories. And the more genuine the approach is, the more I'm likely to respond. I'm just going to be honest. Just like, let me know what you have. And, a lot of times they'll say, I saw that and for instance, they saw that I had pegboards in something and wanted to know if I was interested in these accessories. And yes, I was. And, we're going to do something together. So just a genuine approach, research a little bit, make sure you mention something that, is going to stand out to them. Like you saw this reel and it made you think of this product that you have, something like that, like make a connection with them. And that makes those stand out a little bit more to me.
People reach out to me on Instagram a lot to feature their products, or for example, someone reached out for a stamp where you kind of emboss your book and you can have it personalized. And I thought that was amazing. But for the messages that I get that seem like a copy paste and they've sent it to 5,000 people, those ones I typically don't engage with. Not because I don't want the product, but it's just, I want this smaller community. And so like you said, doing some research, looking at the person that you're reaching out to see what they're interested in, what their following wants. Because it's kind of like my main motto is learn about your customer. And if you're doing this influencer marketing, in a sense, this influencer is your customer in this moment. You're trying to get them to work with you. So you want to be personalized and learn about them, do some research beforehand to get them to connect with you. Because when I get a message that says, hey, Erin, I love your Throne of Glass merch. I have these bookmarks. I would love to send you one, and then they make a reference from one of the books, like I love Aelin Galathinius or something. You can tell that these people are passionate and that they're not just out there to market something that they've never read the books for. Those aren't the types of people that I typically work with.
I get a lot of emails from people who clearly have never looked at any of my content. I don't know, maybe I'm on a list, but I get a lot of emails for, hey, we think you should, based on your content, we think you would really love our makeup. And I'm like, I've literally never once posted about makeup. I am literally still wearing the same makeup I wore in high school because I am very uncool. So it's like, this is not, I am not the person. And so I see those and I'm just like, did you not even take one glance at what I'm doing here? And, so I don't even respond to most of those emails because it's like, well, you're just wasting your time. So make sure that, have a connection of some sort with the person that you're pitching.
My favorites are when they want to send me their exercise gear. And I'm like, I don't know if you've met me, but number one, I don't wear it that often. And number two, I would never post a picture of myself in workout gear.
Someone once told me they wanted to send me snow tires. I was like, I need those, but I'm going to say no because this is not a good partnership. Snow tires? No, let me craft those. No, that's not a thing. Before we go, Erin has a special offer for you guys. Erin, do you want to talk about your upcoming class?
Yes, I would love to. So throughout this process, you've probably heard me mention a lot that the community was a huge part of it. I leaned on people to help me build this business. And when I started to get more well-known on Instagram, I started posting a lot more about my journey. So not only the creative side of my business, but also the business side and kind of the harder things or the more boring things. And once I started to post about that, I got a lot of questions of people asking how I created an LLC or how I reach out to authors, kind of everything we've spoken about in this podcast and more. And I realized that I have this kind of unique skill set where I am doing the creative business, but I also have this business background as a CPA. And so I started to document everything that I was doing throughout my journey of building my shop, because I knew I could tell from these questions I was getting that I wanted to help people and that there was a need in this creative community for a course that went over not only the creative side, but also the business side, because I think that's what stops a lot of people from starting a creative business. The business stuff is so intimidating. The starting an LLC, getting insurance, state sales tax, just all of these things. We just want to do the fun stuff. We just want to do the creative stuff. And so all these questions I was getting, I knew that I wanted to help people. And so I created a 6-week course. It's called the Print on Demand and Etsy Blueprint. And it goes through exactly the steps that I took to start my shop and to build it. And it gives you the tools to do the exact same thing I did, but faster, because you won't have to make all of the mistakes I've made. And I set it out in a very clear step-by-step framework. And each week also has a creative side and a business side. So I really wanted to make it still fun, because we're creatives. We want to have that fun part, but also give you the tools you need to get a good foundation for this business that you want to start. And so we'll go through setting up your Etsy shop, setting up your print on demand shop, but then also creating an LLC, applying for an EIN with the IRS, all of these things that creative businesses just might not want to spend time on. So I'll make them faster for you. And then we also go through design and author licensing, merchandise licensing, like the video game things that I was speaking about earlier. And then scaling, social media, all of these things that exactly are the steps that I took to build and grow my business. And then also giving people other options for scaling, because the path that I took is not the only path where you're doing events and you're doing social media. There are so many other ways to grow on Etsy in this creative space that I just wanted to give people the tools to pick, kind of like choose your own adventure. And so the course is 6 weeks in itself, but it is not just a course. It's also a community, because, like I keep saying, community was essential to my growth, and I wanted to give that back. And so when you sign up for the course, you get the 6 weeks of video content and bonuses and templates, but you also get access to a community platform where we're doing weekly coaching calls. We are doing design feedback. You get access to me for questions, mindset content, and a group of sellers that is growing with each other and hyping each other up as we go, learning from each other. So this course that I've created is really a step-by-step guide with the support and the community to get you from starting to a fully functional, fully scalable shop. And I am so excited about it.
I'm excited about it because I feel like what you hit on was like all the questions we get about how to get started. You hit on every single one. So
Angie and I could go on and on about these back-end things. And we have in other podcast episodes just mentioning things that people need to do. And they can be just really intimidating for people. In a lot of our camps, we have videos that the two of us will do where it's called like 10 things you need to think about but don't want to, or whatever it is, like for starting a business. Those kind of things are just really difficult for creative people. So this is a great course you got there.
Yes, I'm so excited about it. Just the questions on Instagram, people DMing me once they see that I was doing my continuing ed or my author licensing calculations or my financial analysis. People, I don't think, realize, yes, we're entrepreneurs and we get to do the fun stuff, but you also have to do the harder stuff to make sure your business is profitable. And so the course goes through financial tracking and accounting in an easily digestible way, though, because yes, I'm an accountant, but I realize that not everyone is, and we don't want to be spending too much time on that. Like I said, I outsourced mine. So everything that I teach in the course is very basic to spend as little time as possible on the boring stuff so that you can focus on the creative stuff, the design. I mean, there's like 4 hours of Canva, Kittl, like you all talked about in the ad. I love Kittl, Photopea and Procreate. There's so many design tools that's the bulk of what we want to focus on. And then the business stuff is just, let's check these boxes so we can move on to the things we're passionate about.
All right. So if you want to check out the course, you can head to link.craftingcamps.com/Sparrow, and that's SPARROW. And we will have a link in the podcast notes as well as YouTube description. And anyone that signs up by August 18th, you can use code Crafting for Profit, all one word, all caps, for 10% off the course.
Erin, thank you so much for being here. This was really wonderful. I feel like this is going to be one of those episodes that makes people think like off on a completely different track of how they've been thinking. Where they're like, oh, I just thought I needed to, do Etsy or something. And they're like, I never thought about sending my products to somebody on, Instagram or something like that. So you gave us such an honest look at what it takes to build something sort of meaningful and creative, how to do it like within partnership and how to build that community. I think this is going to be an episode that resonates with a lot of people.
So you made something that seems big and intimidating. Frankly, working with influencers and the authors you name dropped, so I'm feeling totally doable. So I know so many of our listeners are going to walk away inspired to take that first step, even if it's a small one. So thank you, Erin, so much for joining.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I loved chatting with you all. And yes, my biggest advice is just start the business, reach out to the person, and the sky's the limit from there.
I love that. If this episode sparked an idea or helped you think differently about how to grow your reach, please share. Let us know. Give this podcast a rating. Send it to your friends. Anybody who you think might be really good at partnering with influencers. We want to also spread the reach of this podcast. So go ahead and share it.
And don't forget to subscribe to Crafting for Profit Live so you don't miss future episodes. We got a lot of good stuff coming your way. We mentioned our episode on community, and you don't want to miss it. So we'll see you next time.